welcome to the deep dive. Imagine planning that perfect wine country getaway. The rolling vineyards, the amazing taste. Now imagine realizing that whole experience might be totally out of reach for someone you care about. Maybe just because of a few steps, or like a gravel path. Today we're sort of uncorking a topic that's maybe overlooked sometimes, but it's incredibly important and actually surprisingly rich. Truly accessible winery visits. We're diving into the 2025 Guide to Accessible Winery Visits for Guests with Limited Mobility. It's by Mia Gibson for Wineful Living. And this guide, well, it came from a very personal aha moment for Mia. Her boyfriend's grandmother, who uses a wheelchair, wanted to join them for a wine tasting weekend. That experience pretty quickly showed that, well, not all wineries are created equal when it comes to accessibility. It really highlighted the crucial need for, thoughtful prep. So our mission here is basically to cut through the overwhelm. We want to give you a shortcut, really, to planning these inclusive, memorable wine adventures, full of those insights that make a trip great for everyone.
Yeah, it's actually quite something how planning accessible winery visits is becoming, well, honestly, one of the most rewarding things in the wine industry now. And frankly, one of the smartest moves, too.
Rewarding and smart.
Exactly. More wineries are genuinely getting it, recognizing how important this is. And for good reason. I mean, sure, the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, it provides guidelines, essential ones. But wineries, they often face unique challenges, right? You've got historic buildings, sprawling vineyards. It's not always straightforward.
Yeah, those old buildings can be tricky.
Precisely. And that's exactly why calling ahead is so valuable, getting accurate, specific info. Because lots of places have made big improvements, adding ramps, making sure restrooms are accessible, even modifying tasting areas sometimes. And it's more than just ticking boxes, It's about the actual experience these things create for someone with limited mobility. The guy really focuses on these key factors you should always consider. Take parking, for example. A paved, level spot right near the entrance. That's not just convenient. For someone, it can save precious energy, setting a positive tone before they even get inside.
Right, starting off on the right foot.
Exactly. Then the entrance itself, good ramps, wide doors. That's not just compliance. It's about welcoming everyone without a struggle. Restrooms, obviously, and where they are. The tasting room layout. And counter heights, especially counter.
Okay, counter heights. Why is that so crucial?
Well, think about it. A simple adjustment there can mean the difference between a frustrating reach and a really comfortable, engaging tasting where everyone feels, equally part of it at the bar.
Got it. Makes sense.
And don't forget, outside those pathways, are they smooth or are they that challenging gravel? And finally, seating. Comfortable, appropriate seating. It's often overlooked, but absolutely essential for a relaxing visit.
Okay, so we've talked about what to look for generally, but knowing what makes a winery accessible is one thing. Actually, finding those places can feel like, well, a bit of a treasure hunt.
Yeah.
Mia's guide points out that winery websites are a start, but often they just paint a really broad picture. So what specific, green flags should you be scanning for online?
You're absolutely right. Generic mentions like accessible often just aren't enough. When you see ADO compliance, think of that as the bare minimum, the baseline. The real finds are wineries that go beyond that. Places that actively mention wheelchair accessibility, or even better, mobility accommodations.
Mobility accommodations.
That sounds more comprehensive. It really does. That phrase often signals a place that gets the spectrum of mobility needs. Not just wheelchairs, but walkers, canes, even folks who just tire easily. They're thinking about things like comfortable, varied seating, not just, a hard bench somewhere. And it's also really insightful to check social media, review sites. Sometimes other visitors' photos give you a much clearer, sort of unvarnished picture of the actual setup.
Oh, good tip, like real-world evidence.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the professional wine tourism groups, like the Wine Institute or regional associations. They often have more detailed info than just basic compliance. And it's interesting, you often find that coastal wineries, maybe places like Malibu, they frequently invested more heavily in universal design, probably due to newer construction and that strong tourism focus. They're often leading the way.
Okay, so you find a promising place online. Then it sounds like the next really critical step, maybe the secret weapon, is communication. How you talk to them.
Crucially important, yes. Advance notice. Winery staff genuinely appreciate it. It just allows them to prepare properly to make things smooth. And you should be specific, really specific about the type of mobility equipment. Is it a manual chair, power chair, walker, cane? And don't hesitate to mention any particular concerns about terrain, seating, maybe restroom locations, anything.
Being specific helps them help you.
Precisely. I remember this great chat with a Sonoma County winery manager. Because we'd clearly communicated our needs beforehand, they actually offered us a private tasting in a different event space that was much more accessible. It just shows that these flexible, sometimes unadvertised arrangements, they're often possible if you just ask.
Wow, that's a great example of them going the extra mile.
It really was. And just to be sure the message gets through, I always recommend following up a phone call with a quick email confirmation. It creates a paper trail, ensures the info gets to the right person, maybe even a specific accessibility coordinator if they have one.
That makes sense. But honestly, isn't it a bit much? Expecting guests to call every single winery. Shouldn't this info just be easily available online by now?
That's a totally fair point. And ideally, yes, all the detailed info would be online. But like we said, wineries are unique places, historic buildings, varied terrain. It's complicated. A phone call lets you have that real-time conversation about specific needs, things that might not fit neatly into an online form. It's about finding that nuance.
Okay, I see the value in the call then.
Yeah.
But what about getting there? Transportation in wine country sounds like a whole different beast, especially in those big rural areas. Does the guide have any, surprising hacks or crucial warnings for getting around?
Oh, transportation definitely needs extra thought. In popular spots, you can find rental companies with accessible vehicles, but you absolutely have to reserve them way in advance, sometimes months ahead.
Months. Wow, okay. Good heads up.
Yeah. And there are also specialized wine tour companies in regions like Sonoma Valley, for instance, that cater specifically to mobility limitations. Now, they might cost a bit more than standard tours, sure, but the peace of mind, the expertise, knowing the best routes, the truly accessible spots, that can be invaluable.
Right, paying for this specialized knowledge.
Exactly. Ride-sharing services? Well, they're getting better with accessibility options, but be cautious in really rural areas. Availability can be super limited. Always have a backup plan. And it's always worth checking if the wineries themselves offer any shuttle services, maybe from nearby hotels or main parking areas. Oh, and for really practical insights, I always point people towards resources like the Wheelchair Traveling YouTube channel. They have some great videos specifically on navigating wine country.
Okay, good resource.
Yeah.
So moving beyond just getting to the winery,
Mm-hmm.
how do you make sure the actual tasting experience is relaxing, enjoyable for everyone, not just feeling like a logistical hurdle?
Right, the core experience. Timing is a big factor here. Try to avoid peak hours. Opting for, say, a weekday morning or maybe late afternoon often means fewer crowds, and you'll likely get more personalized attention from the staff. That can make a huge difference in comfort.
Less chaos, more calm. Makes sense.
And then there's the physical setup. It's often about small but really significant adjustments, making sure there's comfortable seating, appropriate table heights for wheelchair users. Some wineries even have adjustable tasting bars, or they can bring over a portable table. That's incredibly helpful.
So flexibility is key on their part.
Definitely. And this all ties into the social aspect, right? Inclusive group dynamics just happen more naturally when everyone feels comfortable, when they feel accommodated. The goal is making sure the accommodations don't accidentally separate people or make anyone feel, singled out.
Yeah, keeping the group together, enjoying the wine together. What about the vineyards themselves? That often seems like the tricky part. The uneven ground, the hills.
It can be a hurdle, definitely. But lots of wineries have gotten really creative. You'll find places that have put in accessible pathways, or they might have alternative viewing areas, decks, patios that often give you some of the best views and photo ops, actually, without needing to navigate difficult terrain.
So you don't necessarily miss out on the scenery.
Not at all. And many also offer accessible transport within the property, like golf carts or shuttle services to get you around the grounds. But a critical point here is being prepared. Always check the weather forecast. And talk to the winery about contingency plans if the weather turns bad.
Like, what if it rains?
Exactly. Do they have covered areas, indoor alternatives? Some places even offer really cool virtual vineyard tours using tablets or screens right there in the tasting room. Oh, and the accessibility is Ability YouTube channel, another great resource. They have content specifically on vineyard accessibility.
Good to know. You mentioned different mobility equipment earlier, manual chairs, power chairs, walkers, scooters. I imagine the specific needs for each can be quite different, maybe in ways people don't immediately think about.
Absolutely. The nuances are pretty significant. Each type has unique space requirements, surface requirements. You really need to discuss those specifics with the winery. For power equipment like power wheelchairs or scooters, charging is a big one for longer visits. Do they have somewhere you can plug in? Or do you need to bring a portable backup?
Hmm. Didn't think about charging.
It's crucial. And also potential weight restrictions. Some older buildings might have vintage elevators, or certain types of flooring might have limits. That can be an unexpected snag. And just practical stuff during the tasting itself. If someone's equipment isn't needed while they're seated, where can it be stored? Securely and out of the way. It's all about thinking through the details beforehand.
Right, that forethought seems essential. Does the time of year you plan your visit make a difference? Beyond just crowds or weather.
Oh, definitely. Seasonal factors play a big role in the experience. Spring and fall, usually the best weather, right? But that also means peak season, more crowds, higher prices, potentially less staff time for individual attention.
Okay, trade-offs there.
Exactly. Winter can be quieter, which might mean more staff availability for special accommodations. But obviously, weather can limit outdoor activities. Summer heat? That can be really tough for guests with mobility limitations. So you need to actively plan for air-conditioned spaces, keep outdoor times shorter, make sure there are plenty of hydration breaks.
And harvest season. Sounds exciting, but maybe tricky.
It's vibrant, for sure. But yeah, staff are usually incredibly busy then, which can mean less flexibility or availability for specialized help. Honestly, for the best balance of decent weather and reasonable availability, those shoulder seasons just before or just after peak are often your best bet.
Shoulder seasons. Got it. Technology seems to be changing everything these days. How is it opening up new possibilities for accessibility in wine country? Maybe even for people who can't physically travel there.
Tech has really expanded the horizons, it's true. Lots of wineries now offer virtual components, things you can access before, during, or even after a visit. It adds context, lets guests learn at their own pace.
So like enhancing the physical visit.
Yeah, or complementing it. Virtual wine tasting experiences have also gotten really good. They can be great supplements or even hybrid experiences. Imagine doing an in-person tasting, but maybe adding a virtual vineyard tour on a screen or a live chat with the winemaker virtually. It reduces the physical demands while keeping it engaging.
That sounds pretty cool, actually.
It is. And mobile apps are another big tool. Many now include accessibility info, maps, navigation right on your phone. Some even offer audio descriptions, visual aids, communication tools, making the whole experience richer and giving people more independence. The Hunter Valley Tours YouTube channel, that's a good example. They show how modern tour operators are really integrating tech to create inclusive experiences.
It's clear this isn't just about planning one single trip, is it? It feels like it's about contributing to a more inclusive future for everyone who enjoys wine. How can our listeners, play a part in that, beyond just planning their own visits?
That really hits on a critical point, the long-term impact. Developing ongoing relationships with wineries that are accessible is incredibly valuable. Staff often remember repeat visitors. They can give you updated info more easily. It builds connection.
So loyalty pays off.
It does. And equally important is providing feedback. Both positive feedback when things go well and constructive feedback when things could be improved. This genuinely helps wineries get better. And crucially, it demonstrates the economic value of guests with limited mobility.
Showing there's a market for it.
Exactly. There are studies showing that for every dollar businesses invest in accessibility, they often see a return of like $2 or $3. Not just from the guest with the disability, but from their family, their friends, who all choose these inclusive places. And professional networks like the Society of Wine Educators, they're also key. They offer resources, training on accessibility awareness, inclusive service, helping the whole industry raise its standards. It's not just about being nice, it's genuinely smart growth.
Yeah, this whole deep dive really brings it home. The ultimate goal is creating those memorable experiences that all guests can truly enjoy together. And when accessibility is handled thoughtfully, professionally, it really does become kind of invisible to the experience itself, doesn't it? Everyone can just focus on the shared enjoyment, the wine, the company. It's more than just compliance. It sounds like a real competitive advantage.
Absolutely. If you connect this to the bigger picture, the wine industry's growing awareness here isn't just social responsibility anymore. It is undeniably good business sense. Wineries that really embrace full accessibility, they're tapping into a loyal, often underserved group of customers, and that creates this powerful ripple effect, positive word of mouth that, honestly, traditional marketing just can't buy. This whole trend is just leading to smoother, better, more enjoyable experiences for anyone and everyone who wants to explore wine country.
So, after everything we've talked about today, here's something to think about. What's one small step you might take? Perhaps it's actively seeking out and supporting a winery, prioritizes accessibility, or maybe just taking a moment to provide that thoughtful, specific feedback after your own visits. Knowing that every single successful, accessible visit really does contribute to positive change across the entire industry.